Welcome to the archive section with the second half of this interview with Stephen Sidoni. So, in this half, we want to get into some of the other things pertaining to the inner Earth and hollow Earth theories and some of the evidence surrounding it. First off, I think I'll relay a story that something that happened to me personally that'll kind of set this thing off. I astral project, and I haven't been able to get back to this same place yet. I've been processing quite a few other things here in the last few months, and my projections have seemed to shut down for a while. But anyways, about 6 months ago, maybe actually it was just before the July conference at the ECETI Ranch. I had projected. And I found myself in a town, and I don't know where this was, but tree-lined streets and wrought iron fences and beautiful, absolutely beautiful place. And I was floating down the street, about 3 feet off the ground, floating down the street, and I see this church off to the left, and I took a left, and I floated right up to the main entrance to the church. And I looked up to the top of the steeple, and as I looked up, I fell backwards, and I started sinking through the earth. And I had the sensation of moving. It was an amazing sensation. And I was in a dark area, a completely black area, and I knew I was traveling through the crust of the earth. And then all of a sudden, I was in water. And I was in water for just a very brief time, so it couldn't have been that deep. But as soon as I broke the surface of the water, I found myself on the inside of the planet. And I could see on the horizons, I could see what looked like about 20 miles away, a shoreline. And I could see that the interior, the curvature, it was pretty slight from what I was able to see, but you got to consider this is a pretty big place. And up in the center, up in the sky, was an orb that was only half lit. It kind of reminded me of the yin yang symbol, where half was dark and half was light. And that's what I saw for the sun there, the light source, the light and heat source. And I was totally amazed. And at that point, I started freaking out, going, where am I? Where am I? As soon as you do that, it's like the rubber band goes poing, and you slam right back into your body. But that, to me, was validation that there is a hollow Earth.
Well,
Stephen?
I'm a firm believer in what you're talking about. Ramon, did you have another story you want to share with before I tell one of mine?
No, not in particular. I When I had my out-of-body experience dealing with the Hollow Earth, I wasn't sure if I was in a Hollow Earth or another town, but there's a statue here in Japan that's famous. It's called Tenuki, which is like a raccoon kind of, and he's like standing up, and a lot of people will have him in their front doors. And before I even knew what that was, when I was living back in New York, I spoke to the statue in what I'm believing now was a city in the Hollow Earth. And he just gave me warnings, but he wasn't allowed to talk to me. So as soon as he started talking to me and told me about the warnings on the Earth, I was pulled back right into my body.
Interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I'm going to share an interesting story with you, and one I've lived through, which is amazing. I told you about the J.C. Brown legend. What I didn't tell you about is when I came out to Shasta last year to look for these doors. Right after I began my search to go out to Dunsmuir, I was lecturing at the college, COS College, and at the stage door in town, and a woman comes up to me after the lecture, and it's about 86-year-old woman. Her name was Laverne, and she said, I need to take you somewhere. I don't know why, but I'm supposed to take you to meet my friend Kenneth. I said, okay. So I gave her my number, and 2 days later, I went with her to meet her friend Kenneth. Now, Kenneth was 86-year-old man as well. So here I am in the seniors club, almost in this old age home facility he lived in. And so she takes me to meet him, introduces me, and she says to Kenneth, do you know who Stephen is? He looks at me. He says, I've been waiting for him. Okay. But you're my brother from Lemuria. So now I'm taken back. I says, well, brother from Lemuria? He goes, yes. I said, well, what was my name? And jokingly, he goes, your name was Randu. He said, you were a shaman in Lemuria, and I was your brother. I said, well, what was your name? You know, he says, well, you promised not to laugh. I says, okay. He says, my name was Kandu. You were Randu, and I was Kandu. So now I said to him, I says, well, that's very interesting. He says, I know you find it hard to believe, but behind you is standing Archangel Michael, Saint Germain, and Adama, the high priest of Telos. I turn behind me. I don't see anything, of course. I'm a 3D guy. I'm going, okay, well, if I don't see it, he goes, they're telling me they know why you're here. He goes, tell me why you're here. So then I tell him about my story. Looks over to his left and he says, let me ask my angels, Edwin and Johnny. Now, I don't see them either. So he talks to them and he says to them, yes, you're on the right track. You will find a physical location. And they're saying, when you do, come back and show me, and I will validate if what you find is correct. So a couple of weeks later, I came back to see him, and I showed him, I created a little YouTube movie and some photos to show him the back doors, which I explained earlier in this first hour of from the legend. After showing him the photos and the video, he turns to his right again, gets validation from his his angels, and he says, yes, you did find one of the entrances, but you're going to find others, but you're going to be going in, but it won't be right now. You need to prepare yourself. You need to do the work. And I'm going, what work? He goes, you need to do more of your spiritual work. He goes, these are not 3D openings. They're in the fifth dimension, something that you need to, be more understanding of. He said, I was very sick last year, and I was close to crossing. And at that time, I was given, the opportunity to cross. And I said, no, I don't want to cross this year. I want to go up into Telos. And he was told by Adama at that time, this was in, I guess, 2008, that he would go in next year, which was last year, and that he'd have to wait until like August or something before it would happen. This was like in June when we were talking. He says, well, I was waiting for you, my brother. We're supposed to go together. Well, right after that, I was like, shaking my head. But for the next couple of weeks, I would visit Kenneth at his home, and he would share stories, and we would do prayers and meditation. One day, after reading a prayer, we had our hands on each other's shoulders. He levitated off the ground about 1.5 feet.
Wow.
I then brought him back to the ground, and the person who was in the room with me thought maybe I lost my balance. They lost their balance. They were falling, so I had to bring him down. And when I brought him down to the ground, he said to both of us, "Thank you, Stephen." He goes, I was levitating. He goes, and thank you for bringing me back to the ground. At that point, the other person in the room realized that, he had left the ground. After that encounter was over, I told the other person, please don't tell anybody what just happened, because this is a special moment what just happened, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea about this. Well, a couple days later, I was going up to Ashland, and I went to go visit Kenneth, and in front of his door, there was old mail that was unopened, 4 days worth of mail, and I go, gee, this is odd. So I went over to a store in town where he had friends, and they told me that he had fell the night before, and he was in Mercy General Hospital there in Shasta. So I says, well, I'm going up to Ashland for the day. You think he'll be all right? I says, well, his chest is a little sore, but, if you're going up for one day, just see him tomorrow. Well, I went up, and the following day I got a phone call that he had just passed away early in the morning. So right after that, I was, a little upset about it, and I went to the bathroom. I was just kind of shaking my head, and next thing you know, I heard him in my ear, says, go out, get your prayer book, go out to the car and get it. And I do, and then at that time, I hear him tell me that he's going to loan me, this is funny, Edwin and Johnny for a week, because he's going to be in angel training, but after that, he's going to be with me. So for a whole week after that, I get woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning by him, and I kept saying, Kenneth, I got to go to sleep. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. After the week, I realized that he was coming through on a regular basis. So here it was. Not only did I find, this back door, but I get reunited with someone who's now on the other side and gives me validation that there are things that are happening and other things about, the inner earth, that's coming through now. That what I was told is that the veil is going to be lowered very, very soon, and there'll be more people who are going to be able to receive this information, provided that they continue doing the spiritual work.
Right. That talk about validation. The fact that he saw the same three beings behind you that the Indian guy did in Washington.
And the women.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. Right after the first Native American in Washington told me that, there was a Drumming for Peace rally that was at the Olympia State Capitol, which was like about a month later, that was held there. And another Native American, two others, one was from the Sioux tribe, and on Saturday, and then later that same day, one from the Algonquin tribe told me the same thing about what they saw around me, verbatim, and neither one of them had talked to the others. There was the three Native Americans up in Olympia, Washington, and then there was Kenny thereafter, so that made four.
Yeah, well, that's got to be that's really amazing confirmation for you.